Welcome to the Service MVP podcast, and my name is Joe Crisara, America's service sales coach. I have with me one of my mentors, who I've known for years. His name is Dr. Ron Collier. Ron, say hi to everybody. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Joe. How about yourself? Everything great.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was back in 1992, I believe it was, when I was just starting to figure out. I was lost financially, and Dr. Ron Collier held the class. I think it was for York or something like that. You know what I heard there, Ron, was the truth. I heard the truth about financials, and I had never heard that before because mostly it was an illusion. The things about money I thought were really not really true. Ron, I think this is a really important podcast for a lot of people who need to get the financial intelligence they need to do this. Ron, how did you ever get a passion for doing this, and what drove you into this type of a job?
Well, one thing is that whenever I left Purdue University, and I was hired by the train company to actually work with their dealer base, basically making their dealers profitable. As we know, among the contracting, industry, or with contractors, most contractors didn't go and get a business degree before they went into HVAC. And so I was hired to actually improve the profitability of dealers. I'd had some previous experience when I was at Purdue working with small businesses around the US, but never specifically with the contracting industry. But what I found was, among all the businesses, whether they were small or actually large, was they actually lacked the financial skills. And the financial skills are really what distinguishes a lot of very profitable contractors from others. So I got a real passion for improving the profitability through looking at the financials, because I saw all of these contractors working extremely hard, 6-7 days a week, and not really earning the money they deserve. And so I think that's what drove my passion, because all these contractors deserve a lot more money and the ability to retire and do things because they work so hard. And so that was my goal, is to make them more profitable so they could manage their time and manage their retirement. And for most of them, the reason they went in business for themselves was to, I say, really save time, make more money, retire early. And most of them were never able to achieve those goals.
Ron, what are some of the rewards that you've seen? I mean, when you see people finally figure it out, have you had any stories that people come back to you and tell you the change that has affected in their lives?
Oh yeah, great stories. Because once again, whenever they let the financials guide their business, then once again they understand now why they're making money or why they're losing money. And that's the problem with many contracting businesses is they think that they are losing money because they don't have enough sales. And when I first started working with contractors, that's what they always told me is, I need more money. I need more customers. I need more sales. And of course, what I would come back and say is, well, wait a minute, you're only making 1% profit. So that's what you want to do. You want to double your sales. You want to double your workforce. You're wanting to work that much harder for the same profitability. So they never really understood, the guidance that the financials could give them. They were more focused on sales than actually on profitability.
Well, Ron has recently wrote a book called Profit is an Attitude. And definitely I read that book, and it took me right back there, Ron. Just reading it was like, man, I felt like I was sitting in your class and, relearning some of the stuff I already learned. And definitely it was a very good book and right to the point. Ron, I like how you kind of condense the information to make sure that everybody could get something they could use. It wasn't just a book about ideas. It's about a book of implementation. That's what I got from that. Make sense?
Great. Yeah, that's exactly correct. And that's how I wanted to write it, to give them, there are 1,000 things that, you can do in a small business, but, what are the really critical elements, the few elements that really determine whether you're going to make money or not.
Well, Ron is here to share with us the 3 mistakes that contractors make when it comes to their financials and having the financial skills, as he mentions, to be able to guide their business. Ron, let's start with mistake number 1, if you don't mind. What is the first mistake that contractors make when it comes to their financials?
Well, number one is probably looking at and running their business on a monthly basis. What I always say to people is that you really want to open your contracting business on the first of every month, virtually close it at the end of every month, and do an analysis of what happens. And the only way that you can actually analyze that is through proper, financials, both your balance sheet and your profit and loss. Because if you what I've always said is if you're making money every month of the year, you're probably going to make money for the whole year. And so we want to really analyze our company every month using the financials to guide us into the next month. Because if I've made money in March, then I want to do exactly the same thing to make money in April. If I didn't make money in March, then the financials will show me where I'm lacking and be able to correct those the following month. So number one, in the analysis is actually producing good financials and analyzing them every month.
Yeah, just make sure. And Ron, could you tell us a little bit more about the timeliness of the financials? It's like I always look at like it's a scoreboard. If you look at a month, it's like 4 quarters, right? Like the football game. The first quarter, it may have started out slow, but we can always re-strategize and catch up for the second and third week of the month. How timely is that reporting information? Tell me a little more about that.
Well, the reporting is really essential because typically after a month ends, you always close the books. Most contractors today are using QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. And so basically what that means is at the very end of the month, you want to close everything out, pay all the bills, be sure everything is done. And usually that can be accomplished by about the 5th to the 10th of the following month. So by the 10th at the very latest of the following month, you should be able to have good, clean data, from the previous month. In addition, since we're using, dispatching software, for example, like Service Titan is one example, all that is being fed immediately into QuickBooks. So we don't have to really wait in the office to enter information. It's already entered for us. So we should be able to close those books more quickly.
Yeah, nice. So it's instantly being put in, as opposed to the old days. I remember a stack of papers we had to
That is correct. No, that is so correct. And we had to wait for all of that. And but now we can almost analyze our business on a daily basis because the data is coming in on a daily basis.
Yeah, we got the connecting from the vendors right into our software.
Correct.
Rather than having to enter it all in. The poor girl with all those papers entering in, and she would never perpetually catch up. And that was one of the mistakes, I think, too. If you're not into that kind of a system, I guess that could be part of it, right? Part
Sure,
of the
of
first
course.
mistake, right? Ron, what's the second mistake with financials that contractors make in their business? What do you think?
Well, the second mistake is actually probably the pricing, because the financial document really establishes the pricing. One thing I was really amazed whenever I entered the industry back in 1984 was that contractors really don't understand their financials and don't understand particularly the overhead associated with their pricing. Most people today use the gross margin method or something like that, but they really can't tell you after a job is done what the profitability is because they don't know what the overhead is. I think what's important for contractors to understand is that if you're showing an overhead of maybe 30 or 35% on your profit and loss, that is an average overhead for all the jobs. So we can't just go and price using gross margin. We can't use an average overhead for every job, because that really means that some jobs we're going to maybe make a lot of money, some jobs we're going to lose a lot of money. And we got to be very, very careful, because if we're not timely, if we don't know what we're doing, it's very, very easy to lose money on those large jobs. So one thing they really need to be able to do is at the end of every job, they really need to try to do job costing to see
Mm.
exactly what their profitability is. As I say to contractors, when we walk into a house, for example, and give the customer maybe a price on a new system, we're walking in with an expected profitability of maybe 20%. But the question is, what is the actual profitability when we walk out of that house? That's what most contractors don't know. But the financials can certainly guide them in doing that.
Back to that job cost, which is really a key thing, because it's like, I always say it's okay if if we didn't make money on one job, but it's shame on us if we don't make it on the second. If we don't learn from that first thing, it's just a setback maybe because we just didn't anticipate some of the extra costs. And that's really what, when I worked with you in 1992, what I really got from you back then was some of the costs I just were hidden. There were latent costs, I call them, that I just didn't see. Like you taught me that when you throw away $6 sheet metal elbow, it's gonna, if you're making a 10% net profit, it's gonna cost you $60 in sales to make up for it. And that's what I never realized, how much how much the small little things add up to replace them or whatever. It's gonna take a big number out there, and that's really what you really literally saved my life, because truthfully, I would never have been able to get. I was in severe debt when I first met you. I was about 250,000 in debt because of the information about how to sell. Like the key thing was how to sell at the right price.
Sure.
To charge the right price, right? You told me about that. I found somebody who taught me. One of my clients taught me how to sell at the better price, how to do the premium mid-range economy options. Then it all made sense. It came together. I was debt free in 1994. So I paid off like 250,000 in 3 years, because I learned how to get the right price. I couldn't just price myself to operate the business. I had to price myself to make the business and also get out of debt, right? And you have to budget in for that kind of stuff if you're going to get that way, Ron. But Ron, that's really great. Sorry about it. I think going into my own story, it just flashed into my head, and I just
That's
wanted to kind
okay.
of.
That's great.
You probably never heard that from me, so thought I'd give you that 100%. Number three, what's the third mistake that contractors make, Ron?
Well, the number three is to, I think, basically confuse profitability with cash flow. Whenever you're looking at a profit and loss statement at the end of every month, maybe you see a $10,000 net profit. Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, the financial just shows the profitability on sales. It doesn't show the actual cost of running a business, because after profitability, we still have to pay, for example, car payments, those kinds of things. We have to pay mortgage payments. All of those things do not appear on the profit and loss. So even though we're showing maybe a 10% profitability, after all those things are taken out, the fixed asset expenditures reduce the profit even more. Also, too, what contractors need to understand is the actual profitability of 10,000. That doesn't mean that 10,000 has been put into the bank. And that's what so many people do. They say, oh my gosh, we made $10,000 this month. Well, you did make $10,000 on your sales invoices, but that doesn't mean you deposited $10,000 in the bank. And of course, that's because of our accounts receivable, because of financing fees and things like that. It's very interesting, Joe. I've never seen a company go out of business for a lack of customers. They go out of business because of a lack of cash. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's very important to understand things like working capital, exactly how much money do I need. We need to understand, also through the budgeting process, that all of our sales don't occur. It'd be very nice in the HVAC industry if we had 1/12 of our sales every month, but we don't. Right. And so they're spread out. And so they need to understand that maybe in a given month, we're only getting 8% of our sales. The next month, maybe we're only getting 3% of our sales, and all that affects cash flow. November, December, January, and February are typically the 4 months of the year, not uncommon for all contractors to lose money. So we have to understand that and be able to hold that money back in the form of working capital so we can get through those lean months.
That's I think so many people are guilty of that. When they have the cash flow, they start to spend it, and the discipline of holding back and budgeting with that money to say that's money we're going to need, and that's definitely something that I'm very conscious of. And you mentioned something else there too, which is that the money you think you made, the software program might say you deposit. Hey, my God, we made we had a record month. We had $400,000 in sales, and it's like one of the key things I did learn when I learned from you back in the day was I did this. It was really obvious, which a lot of people don't realize, which is that okay, your software program's telling you made 200,000 or whatnot, but what does your bank account say, right? So do those two things match up together? Did they reconcile together?
That's one of the big things. That's why we have to watch that. We have to watch our cash flow, because like I say, we can have, and depending upon how you're diversified in your HVAC business, maybe you're 100% service replacement. That's fine, but you could be 50% service replacement, 50% new construction. You could have commercial jobs, all of those other kinds of things. It'd be wonderful if contractors were 100% COD, but most of them are not.
Yeah,
and so because of that, we have to, if someone is not going to pay us for 60 days or 90 days, we still have to have enough money to pay our bills, take care of our workers. And so that's why looking at everything on a monthly basis, comparing what you actually made on a monthly basis to a monthly budget is very, very critical. And then number two, actually looking at the cash flow in the bank.
That is amazing. Well, I tell you what, the contractors who assume that money is in the bank definitely would be in for a very be surprised. As like I say, that's what I was. I was like, man, this is a primary thing, really. Like number one, I think I got this much. What I really have? And then it's like, okay, now it kind of brings up a gap between what I thought I had and what I actually have. And I said, where's that money? And we have to say, sure, gotta go get it, right? And sometimes it's a secondary job. And I do agree. I try to push people more toward that COD model as much as in our clients. I would think that they're mostly going to be the COD type clients. But even those people, I call there's money in transition. Even a financing sometimes could take a couple of days or even a week. Sometimes you did the job here, but you're not getting paid till here. Even that cash flow can wreak havoc on a business, Ron. And definitely, I learned a lot of that from you. So thank you so much. Ron, thanks for sharing these three mistakes that contractors make with their financials. Is there anything else you like to add, Ron? Now, Ron has a business called Collier and Associates. Do I have that correct?
It's called the Collier Consulting Group.
Collier Consulting Group. I just get it right.
That's okay. That's right, Joe.
Things are Collier Consulting Group, and his goal is to make you profitable. Is it to make you profitable? Is that the goal of the company, Ron?
That is the goal of the company, because that's what without profits, nothing else. I always think of a contracting business as sort of a pyramid, but the bottom pyramid is the financial side of it. That's what supports it all. And if you're not making a profit, then you're not going to survive. You can't take care of yourself. You can't take care of your employees, and you certainly can't take care of your customers.
Yeah, if you're not making a profit, it's more of a charity than it is a business at that point.
It's more like a hobby. That's right.
Hobby. Now, I had one of the things that impressed both Julie, my partner, and me when we asked you tell us about this kind of the sense of your business, and you said you had this certain kind of a program where you actually work with contractors to put their financials into a software that kind of tells people the yellow lights, the green lights, and the red flags that they would have in their business. And you kind of like a CFO on the go. I kind of looked at it like that, and myself is sort of like you're not in the business, but you're helping them with the business. Could you go over that just a little bit and give them a little thumbnail about how that works? And because that really impressed me, and I think that's one of the reasons I wanted you to be part of our group, to make sure our group had access to that kind of reporting and also that discipline. I think somebody like you could help provide. Go ahead and explain a little bit about that.
Well, I appreciate that, Joe. Yeah, we have a proprietary software. We call it the Electronic Financial Officer. And so what we're able to actually do is automatically, so the contractor doesn't have to input the data. We automatically pull information from QuickBooks on a monthly basis, whether it's online or even a desktop. And then at the end of every month, and then we produce about a 14-page report and compare you to actually the industry. So in the 14-page report, we actually take a look at 13 different metrics. We compare those to industry standards and put you in like the top 25%, the top 50, the bottom 50%, the bottom 25%. And we tell you exactly, why you're there and then what you need to do in order to improve those. And we do this on a monthly basis to see if you're moving in the right direction, seeing that the value of your company is going up or down. We also run a report that shows the effect of adding fixed assets or fixed costs to the business. For example, a lot of people would say, I need to hire another office person, but they don't know actually how much more sales they need to generate in order to pay for that person. And we run that report on a monthly basis. And we pull actually 13 months worth of information. So we're looking on a month-to-month basis, but we're also looking at a goal. So we actually set a goal for you and see if you're moving in the right direction. And that way, at the end of every month, you know if you have improved or if you've not, and then we tell you exactly what needs to be done to correct it.
Ron, that's a great service, and definitely one that I think every one of my clients should have. I really believe that because in a way, you've got a third party. Everybody has their accountant and their bookkeeper who does the things for them, but usually you're not getting somebody who's tied into all the other businesses. So I think it's one of the things you get is the experience of somebody who has seen other contracting businesses and is in tune with since 1984 with all these businesses and can instantly help you make those decisions as to what you should pay off first or what you need to do as a strategy to pay off some of this back end debt or things like that. Now, Ryan, one of the biggest things I can see with this, that sounds like a great service, and just so everybody knows, I'm not going to say how much the investment is, but it is very affordable. And when you hear how affordable it is, everybody here, I'm very sure, would want to invest in it, because when I heard it, I'm like, wow, that is an amazing thing. And you get a live person who actually does this with you. It's not just the software, but you also get an actual person to help guide you on this, right, Ryan? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think that's one thing, we produce contractors produce their financials every month, but usually the only thing that they really look at is the profitability. Hey, I made money this month, or I did make money this month, but they're not looking at trends, and they're certainly not looking at, the cost of doing business compared to the industry. And so that's something that we've been able to put together, and this works for any business. Whether it's be plumbing or HVAC or whatever, we can run that report and go over it with them every month.
Right. And then, one thing I would say too is that there are some companies that, it's like this. I remember one time I told my wife, hey, we should get a maid service because we're both working, 10, 12 hours a day. And she's like, well, I got to get this house cleaned up before I had our maid service. And I'm like, oh, that's what they do. And she's like, no, you got to I can't have somebody come into my house with a mess. Ron, have you ever had people say it to you on the financials? Like, the financials are such a mess. I'm not ready for Ron Collier because my financials, what can, this is a surprise question. I didn't clear this with you or anything like that. What can you do to help kind of clean up the house for people so they're ready for this kind of a service? Because sometimes
the thing is that, once again, I've had people actually send me spreadsheets. I've had people actually send me bank statements, and I create the financials for them. And the only way to clean them up is to, actually take a look at them. That's the only way to do it. Because usually that's one thing that I have to do most of the time is sort of clean up the financials. Mm-hmm. Because I have a standard balance sheet and a standard financial document for HVAC. And so what I do is I actually take whatever information they have and plug it into this standard template. And then from that point forward, we're able to work it without a problem. We can change our QuickBooks.
So you won't be, so nobody should be ashamed to say, let me bring this to Ron and see if he can get this stuff kind of recentered and put back in the right order and things like that.
No, no, they really aren't. You know, once again, they realize it needs to be done. I mean, once again, you need good financials to run the company. You need good financials if you're ever going to think about selling the company. You need good financials if you're ever going to get a value for the company or transitioned it to someone in the family. You've got to have good financials, you know, as good as they are. You may like your financials, you may not like your financials, but if they're not so that you can look at them and analyze them, then, you know, we can't, as managers of businesses, we can't really make good decisions, you know. And you know, running a business, Joe, that, you know, the more things that you have laid out, you know, if you get information from 15 different sources, your decisions in your business is going to be much, much better than if you only had 5 pieces of information. And so you really got to start, you got to try to get that financial, at least, you know, where it's understandable, and then move forward, because every month it gets better and better and better, but it has to get organized. So that's the key. And with everybody today, if they're on QuickBooks, they can produce a P&L and balance sheet immediately. Now, it may be good, it may be bad, they may have things in the wrong spot, but that's where we can help them.
That's really great. Well, that's the full scope of the work, which is really, let's help get this messy place. Let's put the furniture in the right order, and then, okay, once we get that, then we can then start the actual business of analyzing this information to help guide people to move the right direction. And really, man, when I hear the service you're doing now, I'm like, man, I wish I would have taken on that service 110% back when I was suffering financially. Ron, I want to say thanks to you, and from my deepest part of my heart, because truthfully, I would not be financially intelligent. And I help people, and I always mention your name, like this is where I learned it from. And so you're the first person who really got me on track. And thank you for that, Ron. And thanks for helping
Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate that.
This guy has helped. I don't know. Have you ever counted the amount of thousands of contractors you've helped, Ron? How
Yeah,
many contractors have you
it's
helped?
close to 6,000.
6,000 people. I mean, just, you think that's a lot? Well, just try to count the 6,000 and see what it takes. Imagine going through 6,000 people's financials and trying to help people with all that. Ron, thank you for the service you provide. And many people, how do people get a hold of you, Ron, to be able to get your service?
Well, they can, once again, they can go to my website, which is collier-consulting.com. They can email me at ron@collier-consulting.com. That would be the best way to reach me.
Great. Well, Ron, thank you so much for joining us here, and I look forward to seeing some of the results that our clients are going to get from getting the financial intelligence and help and getting things in the right order. Thank you so much, Ron.
Thank you, Joe.
Great.